What's your name?
Vitus Jerome Mark Kaiser.
Okay. Where were you born and raised?
I was born 3 doors down in Pratte, May 3rd, 1929.
1929. Okay. Is there anything interesting from your childhood that is of historical significance that you remember?
Well, I can't say historical interest, but we used to have a big standpipe that carried water, and all of us kids used to cheer in the neighborhood. These were all fields when I was a young kid, because I lived 3 doors around the corner. So, caught butterflies, bumblebees, and we'll always end up getting stung. And we wrestled in the fields. We played softball, basketball, baseball. There seemed to be a boy or a girl in every family on this block when I was a kid. And we all played together. And it was always great.
When did you decide to be an artist?
Well, as I say, when I was very young, I always did little things. But when I went to college, I roomed with an artist and an illustrator. And I started decorating envelopes for my wife, and I started doing paintings. Then when I got in service, when I came out, my wife encouraged me to go with Joe Plofkin for formal training, because I never had any formal training in art. And he, as I say, immediately noticed I was colorblind. But in the winter we used to draw models and paint the level. And then I always drew in pencil. Then after a couple of years, he said, "We're going to get rid of the pencil and you're going to start painting." And I thought, oh boy. So he was basic in setting up my first palettes and the colors that I should use. And then we went on, and as I painted along, he was very nice in his corrections. He always picked out something that was good in the painting before he hit you right between the eyes with what's wrong with it. So, but he went on, and even after I finished, I stayed with him, and then he had I think it was 1970, he had a stroke at 18, and stayed going to a night class we had. So I ended up taking over his night classes. Then the school district contacted me to take over his classes at Tech, which I did, and that was in 1970.
Did you study art in college?
No, but as I say, I roomed with a man who was an architecture, and they did a lot of illustrations. This is North Carolina State. It's now North Carolina State University, but when I went there, it was North Carolina State.
And you were there on a football scholarship?
Right, a full scholarship, and they paid for laundry too, because my dad said I didn't pay a nickel for any of your other children's advanced education, and I'm not doing it for you.
And other than Joe Plofkin, whose work were you influenced by?
He did a beautiful painting of a guy in a western at nighttime called Nighthawk.
Yeah, that's
Hopper.
Yeah, Dennis,
Hopper.
not Dennis,
Yeah.
Edward Hopper.
Right. I thought he was just a wonderful painter, and I enjoyed his works. I used to go to Cleveland often and take my students up there, much to the chagrin of the school district. They told me, the principal told me, the assistant principal, who was Walt Strasser, told me, and the board chairman told me, we're not going to be responsible. You got to take all the responsibility on your shoulders. I said, they're broad enough to handle it. And I used to take them up there to Cleveland. But there wasn't one person in the school district except the students who loved it. We had a great time.
you did commercial work for a while. Tell me about that. Who did you work for, and what kind of work did you do?
The stuff I was commissioned to was by these advertising agencies, and there's only a few of those I did. But I did very little commission work. I did a piece for Brugger of their home on a lakefront, and I'm trying to think of a few others, but I did do it because none of us see things the same way, and I didn't want to disappoint. So I didn't accept commission works as a rule, and I did it for another reason. I heard different women talking about paintings that they had commissioned, and they really weren't satisfied with them. So I ignored that direction.
You showed me some letters that you had illustrated.
Some letters?
Yeah.
Yes.
To a girl.
Didn't you have that book of letters? Yeah. These were done maybe at midnight when I finished my formal studies. And then I was writing my wife, who was my girlfriend then, while I was in college. We didn't get married until I was in service and commission. But that's the book. And of course, these are, when I got towards the end, these were the more detailed ones. They're more simplistic than the first part of the book. You know, as you go back, they all have their names. But as I understand it, some people who worked at the post office in Erie, they used to pass these around the post office when they came in. But
I bet they did.
It's stuff that I used to try and incorporate with name in it. And it was a fun thing for me, and she enjoyed it. The purpose of art, I think it tells a story of that period of time, and that's all I can be sure of, other than earning maybe a wonderful living for some of the better artists.
And what you're saying with your art is you're telling the world how the world looks at the time that you're working.
Right. This is like a dated time, and the dates are on the back of these paintings. The day and where it was, and so that people can go through a history of where I've traveled most of my young adult and adult life.
Did you go through different phases or styles in your lifetime with your work?
No, I think it's just an improvement in my draftsmanship and in my use of color. I was set out with that basic palette at first, but then as I go along, I started investigating other areas with color, and that was a lot of fun. I used to do little thumbnail sketches and pencils, which you'll see when we go downstairs. And then I'd go to work on mostly half sheets and sometimes full sheets of watercolor paper. But the half sheets were so easy to carry on my board, sit on my lap, and just sit there and paint. That worked just great for me.
You said you started out doing oil and doing portraits, and you changed to landscapes and watercolor. Tell me what it is that made you do that change.
I don't know. Painting models in the winter, late fall, the winter and early spring, I probably got tired of doing models and figures, and I don't know how many of them I have. I might have one downstairs. And why people wanted them, I don't know. I didn't think they're that fabulous.
Do you use anything for reference, or do you strictly paint on location?
I strictly paint on location. I don't. I like to go, and there's different moods of the day that'll hit me. I might drive around, and my wife said, "Too bad you have to use all that gas money to ride all around the county." I said, "Yeah, but just remember, I only go in Erie County, and usually New York County and around the lake in those areas and Clymer area were always beautiful, and right across the border. And I love painting on. There's a favorite hill of mine called Harrington Hill over there, which I just love sitting on top and viewing all around the town.
Roughly speaking, how many paintings have you made there?
Oh boy. I don't know. I know there's well over 1,000, but I can't tell you how many. I didn't, first 7 years, I think, of my painting life, I didn't keep track of who bought them. Now I have a couple of files full of who purchased them.